Dad, perfect events. At Thanksgiving dinner, my daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eye and said, "Don't bother coming to our house for Christmas. You're just a troublesome old man, and frankly, the kids deserve better than your boring stories." 3 weeks later, she was on Fox News in handcuffs. My name is Harold Mitchell. I'm 58 years old, and I spent 30 years as a federal prosecutor before retiring to my house overlooking Lake Tahoe. I thought the quiet life would be peaceful after decades in courtrooms. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. My son Vincent is 38, married to Linda Martinez Mitchell for 5 years now. She's one of those women who knows exactly how her smile looks and uses it like a weapon. I saw through it immediately. 3 decades prosecuting white-collar criminals teaches you to read people, the way her eyes would calculate before she spoke, how she'd laugh at Vincent's jokes, but scan the room for someone more useful. The first time Vincent brought her to Tahoe, she spent the entire weekend photographing my house, asking about square footage, property values, when I'd bought it. "Just curious," she'd said, flashing that practiced smile. "Vincent's told me so much about this place. I bought it in 1995 for $450,000, told her, while watching her eyes light up. Current appraisal is $1.8 million. She actually gasped. Vincent thought she was impressed by the view. They got married 6 months later, small ceremony. Linda insisted on intimate. Translation: she didn't want to spend money on Vincent's family when she could impress her own friends. I paid for the rehearsal dinner anyway. $8,000 at some fusion place where the portions were smaller than the prices. The hints started slowly. Casual comments about how big houses are such a burden at your age, Harold. Questions about my will wrapped in fake concern. "Vincent and I just want to make sure you've got everything organized. Estate planning is so important." She even suggested I move to a condo in Sacramento, closer to them. "We could help you downsize. The real estate market in Tahoe is incredible right now." I smiled politely and changed the subject every time. Vincent became a stranger. He stopped calling unless Linda was there feeding him lines. Stopped visiting unless she orchestrated it. The man who used to fish with me every summer couldn't spare a weekend. "Linda has this charity event," he'd say. Or Linda planned a trip with her friends. Always Linda, but I kept quiet. You don't survive 30 years prosecuting criminals without learning patience. I watched, waited, told myself Vincent would wake up eventually. Then came Thanksgiving. The day before, Vincent called. "Dad, Linda wants to apologize for being distant. She's really stressed with work and her charity foundation. We'd like to come for Thanksgiving dinner, bring the kids, make it a real family holiday." I should have known better. Hope makes fools of us all. I spent 2 days preparing, made the turkey using my mother's recipe, herb butter under the skin, apple cider brine, the whole spread. Set the dining room table with the good china, made sure Susan and Raymond's old bedrooms were ready just in case they wanted to stay over. They arrived late afternoon. Susan, 12, and Raymond, 9, ran in first, excited to see the lake, good kids despite their mother. Vincent followed carrying expensive wine, then Linda in a designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Dinner started fine. The kids talked about school. Vincent asked about my fishing. Linda smiled and nodded, playing the perfect daughter-in-law. I made the mistake of mentioning Christmas. "I was thinking," I said, passing the mashed potatoes. "Maybe you could all come back for Christmas. Spend a few days. The kids could go sledding. Make it a real tradition again." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Linda set down her fork with a precise click. "Oh, Harold," she said. "My name like it tasted bad. About that, we've been meaning to talk to you." Vincent's face went pale. "Don't bother coming to our house for Christmas. You're just a troublesome old man, and frankly, the kids deserve better than your boring stories about the old days." Susan and Raymond froze, forks halfway to their mouths. Vincent stared at his plate like it held secrets, said absolutely nothing. I felt something click inside my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that before. This was different. This was the sound of a decision being made. "I see," I said quietly, folding my napkin. "Well, I appreciate your honesty. Have a good evening." Linda blinked, surprised I wasn't arguing. Vincent finally looked up, maybe even guilt crossing his face. But he still didn't speak. Didn't defend me. Didn't tell his wife she'd crossed a line. They left 20 minutes later. The kids hugged me goodbye, confused and sad. Vincent mumbled something about calling next week, but we both knew he wouldn't. I stood in the doorway watching their SUV disappear down the road. Then I walked to my study, poured 2 fingers of whiskey, and sat facing the lake. For the first time in 5 years, I felt something other than sadness about my son's marriage. I felt clarity. You know what's terrifying for criminals? When a prosecutor knows exactly where to look. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in my study until 3 a.m., whiskey untouched, mind working. Linda's words kept replaying, but underneath them, I heard other things. Months of comments, questions, hints I'd filed away without examining closely. That's valuable property, Harold. Must be hard to maintain at your age. Have you thought about what happens to the house when you're gone? Estate taxes can be brutal. Vincent mentioned you don't have a revocable trust. I thought she was just greedy, waiting for inheritance like a vulture. Annoying, but legal. But something nagged at me. The next morning I did what I'd done for 30 years. Started looking at details. Vincent and Linda rented their house in Sacramento. Vincent made $85,000 as an insurance manager. Linda worked as a marketing director, maybe $55,000. Combined income around $140,000. Yet Linda drove a brand new BMW X5. I'd looked it up once, $75,000. She wore Prada bags, Louis Vuitton shoes. Her Instagram showed weekly dinners at restaurants where entrees started at $80. Vegas trips, Napa wine tours, weekends in Carmel. The math didn't work. I opened my laptop and started where I always started financial investigations, social media. Linda's Facebook was a masterclass in performance. Photos of her at charity galas, holding oversized checks, giving speeches at fundraising events. Everything centered around something called Light of Hope Foundation. Professional website, slick branding, dedicated to helping Sacramento's homeless through direct aid and community programs. Linda was executive director. Vincent was treasurer. The foundation claimed to have raised $340,000 over 2 years. I felt that familiar tingle at the base of my skull, the one I used to get when a defendant's financial disclosure didn't match their tax returns. I spent 2 hours digging, found their Form 990, the public tax filing every nonprofit submits to the IRS. According to the 990, Light of Hope Foundation had raised $89,000, not $340,000, a $251,000 discrepancy. I sat back, staring at the numbers. Could be a mistake, could be poor record keeping, could be the website was aspirational, counting pledges that hadn't come through, could be. But 30 years of prosecuting financial crimes taught me when numbers don't match, it's never a mistake, it's a system. I remembered Patricia Anderson. We'd worked together when she was an IRS criminal investigation agent. Sharp, relentless, treated tax fraud like a personal insult. She'd left the IRS 5 years ago to start her own investigation firm in Sacramento. I found her number in my contacts. "Harold Mitchell," she answered. "Thought you'd retired to some cabin in the woods. Close. Lake Tahoe. How are you, Patricia? Busy. Rich people keep doing stupid things with money, so business is good." She paused. "This isn't a social call, is it? I need your help. Unofficial and fast. Financial investigation, nonprofit, possible fraud." Long silence. "Who's the target?" I closed my eyes. My daughter-in-law, and possibly my son. Her voice softened. "Want to tell me what happened?" I gave her the abbreviated version, the Thanksgiving insult, the lifestyle that didn't match income, the discrepancy in foundation numbers. "Send me everything you've got," Patricia said. "If there's something there, we'll find it. Thank you. Are you sure you want to do this? If they're dirty and we prove it, that's your son." I looked out at the lake, dark gray under cloudy skies, waves choppy from wind. That's exactly why I have to do it. He chose the wrong side. Someone needs to show him there are consequences. After Patricia left, my phone rang. Vincent. "Hey, Dad, just wanted to check in. See how you're doing after Thanksgiving. Interesting." Linda must have realized she'd gone too far. Sent Vincent to smooth things over. "I'm fine, son. How are the kids?" "Good." Susan made honor roll. "Raymond's doing great in soccer." A pause. "Listen, Dad, about what Linda said. It's forgotten. She was stressed. I understand." The lie came easily. "She was stressed. I understand." Relief flooded his voice. Oh, good. She's been under pressure with the foundation. They're planning this big fundraiser in January, trying to expand their outreach programs. I let him talk, listening for details beneath the words. The foundation was expanding, more money flowing through it, more opportunities for theft. That's wonderful, I said. You must be proud of her. Yeah, she works really hard. He sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure we're okay. We're fine, Vincent. After we hung up, I sat back in my chair. The irony wasn't lost on me. Vincent calling to make peace while I was building a case against him and his wife. But that's the thing about crime. It always feels justified to the people committing it. A week later, Patricia pulled up in a silver Audi. I met her at the door. She'd aged well, still had that sharp look that made defendants nervous. Nice setup, she said, taking in my study. Retirement looks good on you. I poured coffee and we sat. She pulled out a notepad. Tell me everything. I'd prepared for this. Started with basics. When Vincent met Linda, the quick marriage, gradual change in my son, then the pattern of behavior, questions about my estate, obvious discrepancy between their income and lifestyle. Patricia scrolled through the Light of Hope website on my laptop. Photos of Linda at fundraising events, always perfectly styled, always holding those ceremonial checks. Claims they've raised $340,000 over 2 years, I said. Patricia's eyebrow went up. I pulled up the tax filing. $89,000. She was quiet, studying, in on numbers, then looked up with that familiar gleam, the one she used to get when we'd found the thread that would unravel an entire criminal enterprise. $251,000, she said softly. That's not a rounding error, Harold. No, it's not. You understand what you're asking me to do? If they're dirty and we prove it, that's your son in the crosshairs. I know, but if he's breaking federal law, he needs to face consequences. That's what I taught him growing up. Apparently he forgot. Patricia nodded slowly. Give me 2 weeks. I'll dig into their finances, trace the foundation's money, see where it's actually going. If there's fraud here, we'll find it. How much do you need up front? Nothing. We'll settle up when I'm done. She stood, tucked her notepad into her bag. Harold, are you prepared for what might happen if this is real? I thought about Vincent's face at Thanksgiving, staring at his plate while his wife insulted me. I've never been more prepared for anything in my life. The next 2 weeks crawled by. I fell into my routine, morning coffee overlooking the lake, afternoons restoring an antique writing desk in my workshop, evenings reading by the fireplace, but my mind was never fully present. On the evening of the 13th day, Patricia texted, "Got something big, coming tomorrow." She arrived carrying a thick portfolio. Her expression was grim. "You were right," she said without preamble. "It's worse than you thought?" We sat in my study. She spread documents across my desk like evidence for a trial. Bank statements, corporate filings, transfer records. The Light of Hope Foundation is registered as a 501c3 nonprofit, she began. Donations are tax deductible, and they're supposed to use that money for charitable purposes. According to their marketing, they've collected $340,000 over 2 years. The 990 shows $89,000. That's a $251,000 discrepancy, I finished. So I tracked the money. She pulled out bank statements. The foundation has an account at Wells Fargo. Regular. Deposits from donors. Small amounts mostly. $50 here, $100 there. People who think they're helping homeless families. Her voice had gone cold. She hated this kind of crime. Where'd the money go? 3 shell companies in Nevada. She laid out documents. Bright Future Consulting, Summit Advisory Services, and Clearwater Solutions, all registered within 6 months of each other, all listing different addresses, but when you Google them, they're either empty lots or mailbox stores. Classic money laundering. The foundation paid these companies for consulting and administrative support, Patricia continued. Over $523,000 total. I blinked. More than they even claimed to raise. They collected more than they reported. Some donors gave cash at events, never made it to official books. She pulled out another document. And here's where it gets interesting. The shell companies all have the same 2 account signatories. She slid the paper toward me. I already knew what I'd see. Linda, Martinez Mitchell, Vincent Mitchell. The money goes into shell companies, then gets transferred to their personal accounts, Patricia said. Linda's primarily, but Vincent's too. They've been systematically stealing from their own charity for 2 years. I sat back, processing. $500,000, federal fraud, interstate wire transfers. This wasn't just unethical. It was federal crime with serious prison time. You're sure about this? Every detail. I've triple-checked everything. The evidence is solid. I looked at papers spread across my desk. My son's name on corporate documents for fake companies. Transfer records showing him helping his wife steal from people who thought they were helping the homeless. What are you thinking? Patricia asked quietly. I'm thinking I spent 30 years putting people in prison for exactly this kind of crime. And if anyone else brought me this evidence, I'd tell them they had a federal case. And because it's your son? Because it's my son, I said. Slowly, I need to be absolutely certain. Can you prove intent? Patricia pulled out one more document, an email from Linda to Vincent. Make sure transfers look like legitimate consulting payments. Keep them under $10,000 each to avoid reporting requirements. We need to be smart about this. Structuring. Deliberately keeping transactions below reporting thresholds. That showed consciousness of guilt. I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Just cold certainty. Federal crime, I said. Wire fraud, money laundering, probably tax evasion too. What do you want to do? I looked out at the lake. Water was gray under cloudy skies, choppy from winter wind, cold, unforgiving. How long would it take you to compile this into a formal report? Something I could present to federal authorities. 3 days, maybe 4. Do it. Include everything, every transaction, every transfer, every piece of evidence. Make it so thorough that even a rookie prosecutor could get a conviction. Patricia studied my face. You're sure? This is your son, Harold. There's no coming back from this. I thought about Vincent at 7 years old, crying because he'd broken a neighbor's window, insisting on apologizing, on making it right with his allowance. I thought about the man he'd become, weak, complicit, helping his wife steal from the vulnerable. That's exactly why I have to do it, I said. He chose the wrong side. Patricia left with her evidence portfolio, promising to return with a complete investigative report. Over the next several days, we compiled everything into an unassailable package. Bank records, corporate filings, email communications, even photographs from Linda's social media, showing designer clothes and expensive restaurants. Lifestyle inconsistent with legitimate income. The foundation claimed to run homeless shelters and food banks. In reality, they'd never operated a single program. Every dollar donated had gone into Linda and Vincent's pockets. I wrote the cover letter myself, explaining who I was, my background as a federal prosecutor, my relationship to the subjects under investigation, making clear I had no personal vendetta, just civic duty to report suspected federal crimes. On the evening we finished, Patricia and I sat with 2 thick folders, one labeled IRS Criminal Investigation Division, the other FBI Sacramento Field Office. This is airtight, Patricia said. If they don't pursue this, I'll eat my badge. They'll pursue it. I'd worked with federal prosecutors for 3 decades. I knew what got their attention. Interstate fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, the trifecta. The next morning, I drove to Sacramento. The IRS Criminal Investigation Office was downtown in a nondescript federal building. I have evidence to submit regarding a federal fraud case, I told the guard. The agent who came down was younger than I expected. Late 30s, sharp eyes. Special Agent Martinez. You have evidence of fraud, money, laundering, charity scam, over $500,000. I handed her the folder. Everything's documented. Bank records, shell companies, interstate transfers. She opened the folder, scanned the first pages. Her expression shifted from surprise to interest. This is comprehensive. You're the one who submitted this? She looked at the cover letter, saw my relationship to the subjects. Your son and daughter-in-law? Yes. She studied my face. Mr. Mitchell, are you aware that if we pursue this, they could face significant federal prison time? I'm aware. That's why I need you to look at the evidence objectively. Don't dismiss it because of my relationship to them. Look at the facts. She nodded slowly. We'll review this thoroughly. I left the IRS office and drove to the FBI Sacramento Field Office. Same procedure, same reaction, same warnings about consequences. The law applies equally to everyone, I told them, including family. The next 2 days crawled by. On the evening of the second day, my laptop chimed with an email from IRSCID Sacramento. Mr. Mitchell, your submission has been reviewed and accepted for investigation. Case number IRS-CID-2024-847 has been opened. An investigator will be assigned within 48 hours. 20 minutes later, another email from the FBI. Your information regarding suspected federal fraud has been received and is being evaluated. A preliminary investigation has been initiated. I sat back in my chair, looking out at the lake. The sun was setting, painting the water orange and gold. Beautiful evening. Peaceful. Vincent's life was about to implode, and he didn't know it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The phone rang at 3 a.m. Vincent. Dad, sorry to call so late. I couldn't sleep. Wanted to hear your voice. He sounded stressed, worried. What's wrong? Nothing? Everything's fine? Just work stuff. Linda's been stressed about the foundation. Some of the paperwork doesn't match up right, and she's worried about an audit. They were worried about an audit. They should be worried about federal prison. I'm sure it'll work out, I said. Yeah, you're right. He paused. Dad, I know things have been weird between us lately, but I want you to know I love you. You're my father, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. My throat tightened. I know, Vincent. Good. Okay, I'll let you get back to sleep. Love you. Love you too. Wednesday evening, I was reading when my laptop chimed. A Google alert I'd set up. Light of Hope Foundation plus Sacramento. Fox News posted 17 minutes ago. Breaking. Federal investigation launched into Sacramento charity fraud. Over $500,000 allegedly laundered. They'd leaked it. Someone had leaked the investigation to the press. I clicked the article. Sources close to the investigation say, Light of Hope Foundation, a Sacramento nonprofit claiming to help homeless families, is under federal scrutiny for money laundering. Executive Director Linda Martinez Mitchell and Treasurer Vincent Mitchell are suspected of diverting over $500,000 in charitable donations to personal accounts through shell companies. Vincent didn't know yet. The article had just been posted. My phone stayed silent for 5 hours. At exactly 12:01 a.m., it exploded with a call. Vincent. Dad. His voice was hysteria barely contained. Dad, are you watching the news? Seeing what? Fox News. We're on Fox News. They're saying we stole money from the foundation, that we're being investigated by the FBI. I turned on my television. The late-night anchor was reading the story. Behind him, a graphic, Sacramento charity fraud investigation. I'm seeing it now, I said calmly. This is insane. Someone made up lies about us and reported us to the FBI. Vincent, the FBI doesn't investigate based on lies. If they're looking into this, they have evidence. Silence. Long, damning silence. It's not like that, he finally said, voice cracking. Linda said it was okay. She said we were entitled to administrative fees. That's how nonprofits work. $500,000 in administrative fees? The amounts got confused. She handles the books. I just signed where she tells me to. Of course he did. Just signed where she told him to. Vincent, you need to get a lawyer. A good one. Don't talk to anyone without legal representation. I could hear Linda in the background now, her voice shrill, demanding to know what I was saying. I have to go, Vincent said. But Dad, this is going to be okay, right? They'll figure out it's a mistake. I looked at the TV screen. The anchor was bringing in a legal analyst to discuss potential charges. Wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, 20 years maximum federal prison time. Get a lawyer, Vincent, I said quietly. Then hung up. By 3 a.m., it was trending on social media. Someone had compiled Linda's Instagram posts, designer bags, expensive dinners, luxury vacations, juxtaposed with the foundation's claims about helping homeless. That afternoon, the final message from Vincent, they're coming to arrest us tomorrow. Christmas Eve. The FBI called our lawyer. Dad, you did this. I hope you're happy. I wasn't happy, but I was certain. I typed one last response. You made your choices. Now you live with them. The kids will be taken care of. I'll make sure of that. His response was just 4 words. I'll never forgive you. Christmas Eve, every channel covered it. The arrests at the airport, Linda and Vincent in handcuffs, their attempt to flee to Las Vegas thwarted by federal agents. 2 weeks later, the custody hearing. Social services verified I had adequate space, financial stability, clean background. Susan, 12, and Raymond, 9, moved into my house. Nancy Wilson, Linda's mother, barely spoke when she handed them over. "This is your home now," I told them, standing in my entryway with their suitcases. "Your rooms are upstairs. You can decorate them however you want." The first week was brutal. Susan cried at night. Raymond wandered like a ghost. But gradually, routine established itself. School runs, homework help, bedtime stories. On the fourth night, Raymond appeared at my study door. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "Your parents broke the law, stole money from people trying to help others. I couldn't let that continue. But they're your family." "Yes," and that made it harder. But love doesn't mean letting people hurt others. He nodded slowly. The next morning, he ate his full breakfast. January brought the sentencing hearing. Vincent got 4 years. Linda got 8. Plus $261,500 each in restitution. That evening, I told Susan and Raymond over dinner. Susan's fork clattered to her plate. 8 years! I'll be 20 when she gets out. She cried, loud, angry sobs. "This is your fault. I didn't argue. Let her be angry." She was 12. Her world had collapsed. Eventually, Susan ran upstairs. Raymond looked at me. "Did they do it?" "Yes. They stole from people trying to help poor people." He nodded, went back to his dinner. The next morning, Susan came downstairs. Calmer. "Grandpa, Mom called from prison. She said you made up documents because you were mad about Thanksgiving. That's not true. Every document was real. The FBI wouldn't have arrested them without solid evidence." "Do you hate them?" "No, I'm disappointed, but I don't hate them." "Do you hate us?" "Never. None of this is your fault." She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. Raymond joined us. We stood holding each other while my grandchildren mourned their parents' mistakes. Months passed. Susan joined volleyball. Raymond played soccer. We visited Vincent monthly at Lompoc. He was different, sober, taking classes, dealing with his weaknesses. One spring morning, Susan looked up from her homework. "Grandpa, can you help with this algebra problem?" "Of course, sweetheart." Through the window, Raymond's laughter rang out as he played with Scout, the golden retriever I'd gotten them. Outside, spring was coming to Lake Tahoe. Ice melting, new growth beginning, life continuing despite everything. I'd destroyed my son's freedom to preserve justice. I'd lost my family to save my grandchildren. I'd chosen law over blood. And I'd do it again. Because some things matter more than comfort. Some prices must be paid. Some sacrifices are necessary. Justice cost me my son, but it gave me the chance to save my grandchildren from growing up thinking crime has no consequences. That family loyalty means protecting wrongdoing. That money matters more than integrity. Outside, Raymond called, "Grandpa, come throw the ball." I walked into the spring sunshine, threw the ball for Scout, listened to Raymond's laughter, felt the warmth of the sun and the cold certainty that I'd made the right choice. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't even peace. But it was justice. And sometimes, I'd learned over 58 years, justice is all we need. It has to be enough. Sometimes the greatest act of love is becoming the villain in someone else's story, because protecting the innocent matters more than preserving comfortable lies. Real family isn't about blood protecting blood from consequences. It's about teaching the next generation that integrity has a price worth paying, even when that price breaks your heart.